All right.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Megan Contra, the founder of The Dames, and I'm so excited to be here today with Marla DiCarlo, co-founder of Raincatcher, and they help entrepreneurs buy and sell remarkable businesses. We are here today to talk about the Raincatcher's Dilemma, which is the most critical factor in achieving your goals, which may surprise you. We're going to talk about that today. So we'll learn in this short segment how to create actionable steps to increase your company's value, delegate tasks off your plate that help your business to operate without the business owner's, everyday involvement. And these strategies are going to help you learn to break down larger activities into distinct tasks in 4 stages so that you, the owner, can really delegate those tasks efficiently and effectively. So Marla, let's drop in and talk about why business owners should focus on their strengths and ask themselves, where do I make a unique contribution to my business?
Yes. Fantastic. So first off, just to go backwards, it's actually not the Raincatcher's Dilemma, although I love that. And all of a sudden I went, ding, 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 we got to tie that together. It's the Rainmaker Dilemma, but easy to do. And the reason why they're calling it the Rainmaker Dilemma is because it affects every business owner. And what do we do in our business? Well, most businesses, they're the rainmaker, right? So what was really interesting is Value Builder, they did a survey where they interviewed, I think it was 50,000 business owners, if I'm not mistaken. And they asked them 2 questions. They asked them, first off, how much of the company's revenue do you personally generate, the business owner generates? And then the second question was, do you know all of your customers by name? And what they found is that rainmakers, those business owners that generate revenue in their business, they typically do 75% or more of their business's revenue, which neither one of us are surprised, right? I mean,
not at all.
Yeah, I 100%
Yep.
generated 75% of, not a Raincatcher necessarily, but I started that business differently. But when I think back to Kaizen, the CFO business I had, 100%, that was my bottleneck, was I could not figure out how to get out of the trenches of the day-to-day of generating the revenue for the business. And when I think about that question that they asked the business owners, do you know all your customers by name? Oh, I 100% knew, right? So
that was part of what we pride ourselves on. I think we think that we're doing a good job when we know that.
Yeah, well, and it makes sense why that happens, because right, we're the ones as the business owner, as the rainmaker in the business, we're the ones that created the vision of the company. So who better to be able to talk about the services of that company? Or, especially in the beginning, you are the salesperson. So of course you're going to know the customers by name. But what happens is that those owners that do know the customer by name, they actually generate, let me see if I can get the statistics all right. They generate 30% less offers. So they're going to generate 30% less offers than those business owners that have no idea the customers by name. They also have valuations that are typically, and this was shocking to me, 50% lower. Their valuations are normally fit because of and that's the owner dependency portion of that business. Okay. So it makes sense why this is a topic that we need to be aware of and talk about. How do we focus on where we can contribute the most to our business, but also not get in that trap of, being the end all be all for everything. So what Value Builder ended up doing, which was really very fascinating, and this is what we're going to be training on. So it's actually the first time I'm doing the presentation. Okay. So what they did is they broke business owners into 2 different what am I gonna call them? Categories, I guess. We have the rainmakers, and then we have the architects. And so obviously you want to get yourself out of that rainmaker category and move yourself into a different quadrant of being the architect of your business. And so we're going to talk about how do you do that, because it's hard.
Right. It's not just cut and dry. And it involves, I would imagine it involves looking a lot at, okay, well, yes, you've gotten your business to the point where you have a really great sales system. You as a rainmaker, if you're doing that much in sales, chances are you've gotten a great system. But have you documented that system, and have you made it so that other people can repeat that system exactly?
That's right. That's exactly what it is.
And track that success and track the KPIs, and making sure, have those levers that you get to push up and down and see, not only know what those levers are, but you're tracking them so you can see, okay, well, this is what happens when this thing happens during the sales process. And so we need to correct that here or at any point on the line in the marketing funnel, in the whole entire process.
I was just about ready to say, I'm going to speak your language for a minute, because one of the first tasks that they teach the business owner is how to create, design a marketing funnel that works without you, that they call it works in your sleep. And I know you've got probably a million ideas you could share with the dames around that. But and I got to tell you, Megan, as being okay, my background's an accountant, right? And I've been a CFO for many, many companies, and I've served in a CEO role. But until Raincatcher, I had never been asked or expected to be in the marketing department. So that was something very new to me. Now, after almost 7 years of doing this, I have learned a lot. But I had to learn. It was very, first off, it was frightening, because it was out of my skill set. And I wasn't used to that, because I actually prided myself on knowing a lot. But then also understanding your language, how marketing does, the purpose it serves, how to understand just enough where you're not in the trenches, but also to make educated decisions around how do you create that marketing funnel.
Yep. So when we're thinking about, dames typically, because that's who we're talking to, and we're not diving into this topic, 100% as a long training, but we're thinking about that from the standpoint of how do we make progress toward removing ourselves as the prime rainmakers? What would be like a couple of steps that business owners could take? Is it good enough that they look at the different portions of the process and they say, okay, where can I outsource, or where can I first systematize and then outsource or bring in help for certain parts of that process? Is that a good place to start for business owners? I'm thinking of like some of the women and the dames who are like, we're looking to hire an answering service, because at least that can be taking in those incoming calls, weeding out and moving people through the sales funnel into the next step, or obvious things like marketing automation for the earlier phases. But what are your thoughts on that? How do they get started in this?
Yeah, I think you're right. You're on the right path. So I feel the first step that a business owner needs to take to move themselves out of that rainmaker dilemma that they're in is creating a process map of their company from start all the way to finish. From the start of bringing in those sale to closing, finalizing that sale. And I always call it create a macro process map first, right? And then kind of drill in, you can even just draw lines below it where you start taking it more to a micro level, and then put your name or color code, either one, you do both, those tasks, or those not tasks, but the areas of your business that you as a business owner are responsible for. It will be mind-blowing.
Opening and scary. At first,
right. Well, and what's funny about that here, I won't go too deep with this, but the funny thing about this is you will have two different groups of business owners. You have business owners, it sounds like you and me, where it was scary. It was like, oh, I got to get out of that, right? And then you have those other business owners that they almost take pride in it and they don't want to let those areas of their business go. So what I recommend from there for those business owners that are struggling with letting things go, assign an hourly dollar value to that category, to that task. That is scary.
Yeah, when you realize and you think about the fact that as a business owner, even if you're not a technician, as they call it in eMyth, even if you're not like a lawyer or a marketing coach or a whatever, even if you're a business owner like Marla, who Marla runs Raincatcher, but Marla does not do the business brokerage aspect of the business. So you're a true business owner. Not that we're not all true business owners.
Yeah.
But you're at that point where you're really truly running the business as the CEO of the business. So when you look at that and you say, okay, as the CEO or as the talent or as whatever, my hourly rate, if we even calculated it, is $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at something like, filtering sales calls, like I said, answering the phones or filtering out to see who's a good lead and who's not, and you assign that $1,000 an hour job. Oh my gosh, right? No way should that be. Just like, even when we get to a point of who's keeping the sales lead system updated and how is that being followed on a regular basis? Is that another $1,000 an hour job, or is that a $25 an hour virtual assistant job? You really start to open your eyes to the things that you're doing that, wow, if I could free up the time to be the real CEO, what else could I be doing? And then that removes you from the bottleneck so that when you do go and want to sell your company, that's what makes sense to me, is that if you're saying that 50% more offers for those who don't have the business owner as the prime rainmaker, of course, because that's one of the things that people buying businesses look for. They don't want the business owner to be attached to every single process and part of the business.
Build versus buy. We've talked about that in the previous trainings. If a buyer can build a business faster than they can buy the business, or cheaper than they can buy the business, why wouldn't you do that? So the whole key of creating a sellable, valuable business, and this is where I always tell the dames, it doesn't matter if you're not going to sell right now. That's okay. But what you're doing is you're creating an asset that is truly something that is worth something. And so you have to think this way. You have to think about making your business turnkey and look at through the lens of the buyer. Is your business something that a buyer could easily just duplicate? Or is there enough IP, processes, systems, customer list, all of the above, people, everything, that it makes sense to buy it? So that's what we're going to talk about, is what is the difference, between the architect and the rainmaker, and then what are the steps that you can start taking to get yourself out of that rainmaker dilemma. And I think actually, I really do believe, Megan, that the dames are going to find that this is easier than they think, because a large part of this is going to be around creating processes and looking at it through a different lens. And how do you find the right people?
Yeah, definitely. I remember just when I first started looking at business, like you were talking about, from the perspective of, and for me, it wasn't even like I was thinking, oh, I'm going to sell this business down the line. It was simply, I need to start hiring people to take these things out of my wheelhouse so that I can free up my time to be a real CEO and start doing the things that CEOs do. Because right now, back then, I was in that marketing coach, in that technician role all the time.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I started creating those processes, it really freed up so that I could be a business owner. Again, like you said, you may not think that you're going to sell your business anytime soon, but let me tell you, if you've put this stuff into place now, and 5 years, 10 years down the line, you decide that you do want to sell your business, you're going to be able to do so in a lot closer of a time frame, a lot smaller of a time frame than if you have none of this in place.
Yes. And don't you find that I find that the lessons I learned, right, because we've learned these lessons, and watching webinars like what I'm going to do and what we're doing here. So Raincatcher has been so much easier for me to be able to scale and grow and manage than my prior positions. Like, I think back on Kaizen, I love that business so much, but I don't even know how I made it day to day because I was miserable in the trenches. So,
Yep.
yeah.
That's the same exact thing for me. And that's why, I learned how I could have scaled my marketing business, and I learned how I could have made it work without it being so heavy to lift. But when I realized what would be required in order for me to do that, and then, this idea of the Dames was born, and this business model itself is scalable, just in and of itself. I
Yes.
learned where I wanted to focus my time, and I learned where I wanted to focus my effort, and I was able to pivot and put my time and energy into the Dames. That's not what every one of us is going to do. As like you did, you sold Kaizen because you figured out how you needed to create those systems and how to make a sellable business, and you did.
Yeah.
And then you started a new business, and that's what some women will do, and others will keep this same business for quite some time, and then they may sell it down the line. You might as well build it as a sellable business while you're doing it.
It will take the pressure off of you. It will make your life easier. You'll get your time back faster. You'll enjoy what you're doing. And I also think it gives you clarity around where are you going with this business, right? I don't know that I had that with Kaizen. I really don't. I knew maybe a 5-year plan, but I really hadn't gone beyond that. I know where I'm taking Raincatcher. And it's because of what we're going to talk about on this training. These are the things I'm practicing, you're practicing. That's why we're here to tell the Dames about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll just say that that's hilarious, because I was talking to someone the other day. I just said, hey, what's your long-term plan for your business? And they're like, I just don't know, like, what's a plan anymore? And And I said, I used to feel like that in my marketing business. When somebody would ask me, what's your 5-year plan? I would say, oh, well, I plan that 5 years from now, I'm going to be celebrating the 5-year anniversary of you asking me this question, because I had no other way of answering it. No other way of answering. It was not, it was like, I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow.
Right. Well, and so what we're doing is we're sharing with the Dames who are listening to this right now. You're not alone. I think that's something we need to continue to remind everyone about. You're not alone. We're human too. We've been there. We've done it. We've had the same feelings. Sometimes I do have the same thoughts, but I am telling you that the stuff that we're talking about works. It's going to make your life better. If you're going to sell, I'm telling you, as a business broker, owns a business brokerage company, this is what a buyer wants to see. And if you're not going to sell, cool. You've got a wonderful business you love, you make money, and you're not in the trenches.
Again. So ladies, make sure that you have it on your calendars and that you've already scheduled it in on March 2nd at 2 p.m. Mountain. That's the next Raincatcher led training. And Marla, why don't you just let everybody know what they're going to learn on that 1-hour training?
All right, fantastic. So we're going to talk about the Rainmaker's Dilemma, how you get out of that, move into an architect, to being an architect in your business. And then we're also going to go through, how do you start to evaluate if you are ready to sell your business, and what is your plan? What are you going to do after you sell your business? And that's called the personal readiness. So great stuff ahead.
Awesome. All right, ladies. Well, Marla, thank you for joining me in this conversation today. And as always, for giving so much hope and eye-opening information to the Dames and other business owners out there who really need to know this information so that we can make the best decisions and have the best businesses possible for us.
Thank you, Megan.